Welcome to the first PowerPoint slide presentation. These PowerPoint slide presentations are going to have a lot of information. I'm going to try to make them as quick and clean as possible, but these are going to be uncut. I just want to let you guys know. So I'm going to probably stumble on my words, just like I just did there. I'm going to stutter a lot. It's going to happen, but I'm going to make these clean and uncut to be real with you guys. Also, these PowerPoint slide presentations are going to be kind of put in order based on beginner knowledge to more experienced knowledge. So I'd highly advise you maybe going through these in order, watching them as we go along, because towards the end there's going to be information that you learned from the beginning that you'll want to know towards the end. So with that being said, let's jump into the first slide, which is finding stocks and news. This is really important because this explains what type of trader you're looking to be. And there's three different types of traders or investors out there, and it's either a day trader, a swing trader, or a long-term investor. Okay, and to kind of dive deeper into these, we got to talk about them and kind of go one by one. So day trader, what does a day trader do, and what is a day trade? A day trade is buying assets and selling them within the same day. A trade could last anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes to a few hours, but you don't hold it overnight, and that's the whole point of a day trade. High risk, high reward. I'm going to say that again. High risk, high reward. But to find the correct day trading stocks, we have to look for news and catalysts. When you find my morning watch list or anyone's morning watch list, they normally look for the top news and catalysts and to see why that stock is trending higher. There's normally something that came out about the stock, and that's what news and catalysts have to do with. Also, you want to look for stocks that have high volume. I normally try and look for a stock that has over 150 to 200,000 in volume. That's normally what I like to aim for a day trade. The more volume, the easier you'll be able to execute trades, and the more rapid and quicker the stock can move to the upside and downside. The overall sector is also very important. You have a bunch of different sectors, and if a certain sector is booming, you want to take into consideration because then you'll be able to pick a stock from that sector. The stock itself is very important. You kind of got to know whether or not that stock is at least legitimate. If the stock has good news and the stock itself will benefit off that, like a pharmaceutical company that got an FDA approval or whatever that may be, that's big news for that stock. And if they've been dealing with trying to work through that vaccine or whatever, their medicine that they've been working at, and they get approved, that's huge news, and that will cause the stock itself to run up massively. And it also considers that as a catalyst. And then lastly is technicals. Using technicals like our simple moving average lines, our MACD, our RSI. There's a whole bunch of technicals. Everyone uses different types of technicals, but I'll go into later on sometime in a different PowerPoint slide about the technicals I think you should start out with, because sometimes you really don't want to have too many lines and just drawings and all this crazy stuff in your charts. You want to make it as simple as possible, and that's really what you should be using technicals for, is to try and make it so you can get the best entry and exit points. A swing trade. A swing trade is a little less volatile. It's very less high risk, high reward. There's still a lot of opportunities though. You look for more upcoming catalysts in the news and whatever may be. Swing trades you normally hold for either a few days, a few weeks, or even a few months. You're looking for those upcoming news catalysts that are either happening in the future that you may be hearing about now, and the stock's trading lower, but you know that it will start to take off when it gets closer to that date. Something that most people try and trade off of with the catalyst, I'll give one example, would be Amazon's Prime Day. Normally Amazon's stock runs up to Prime Day, and it's normally a big deal for them, but it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to run up, but that's just a catalyst that you could consider. But catalysts are very important, and also upcoming earnings for swing trades. The sector it's in is also very important. You want to figure out which sector is booming and what sector is kind of getting rotated out of. As of right now, the EV sector isn't doing too hot. Compared to it was a few months ago, if you were buying any EV stock in the whole sector, you would have made money on it because of the fact that it was going up day after day. But you got to take into consideration the certain sector that you're trading in. How the stock traded in the past, looking how it traded in a few days, few weeks, few months, depending on how you're trading the future. If you want to hold it for a few months, you got to look at the past few months. If you want to hold it for a few days, you got to look at the past few days. That's what I kind of mean by how the stock traded in the past. Again, the certain sector it's in is very important. I don't know why I wrote that down twice. That's my fault. And then lastly is technicals. Now, technicals for swing trading isn't as strict, okay? We're not using hard SMA lines. We're not using short-term SMA lines. We're using more longer-term simple moving averages. We're not really looking for anything with crazy volume. We're looking more for resistance and support areas. Finding those stocks that are trading near support that have the opportunity to bounce with an upcoming catalyst that we can ride up until we get to the resistance area and sell or take some shares off and let the rest ride is a type of technical trade that we want to take with a swing trade. Long-term investments. Now, long-term investments are very, very important as those are the safest way to invest in the stock market, and normally it's the way that boomers trade, but you know what? It's the way that the stock market works. It's always started as a long-term investment as the best return, and you know what? You can make quick returns as a day trade and swing trades, but if you want to be safe and almost guarantee decent returns in the stock market over time, you can look for long-term investing. That can be anywhere from a year plus to 10, 20 years, however long you want to hold it. The sector it's in is very important. You got to do a lot of research when long-term investing. You want to figure out what sector is going to be taken off. Obviously, electric vehicle sectors, green energy, charging stations, whatever it may be, those type of sectors we hear a lot about in the year 2025 to 2030. So those stocks right now that are trading a little cheaper, that you're willing to hold for the next 5 to 10 years, that may be something you want to take into consideration. Like we had with the e-commerce type stocks in the past couple months when we were during COVID, well, past couple months, past a year, all those stocks have been booming like crazy. That's a certain sector that is taking off. Isn't going to go away. It's a little overhyped, I think, some of those stocks. But looking into the future, e-commerce, online shopping, it's going to be huge. And I think that you want to get into some of these stocks for the long term for sure. But to get away from that, certain sectors is very important. Competition, looking at different competition between certain stocks. Looking at chip makers like NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel. Okay? 3 very popular names. They're all competing for each other. Figure out which stock, in your opinion, has the best business model for their future and go from there and choose that stock. Sales and revenue, balance sheets, all important to take in consideration, and we'll figure out how to look into balance sheets later in this video. Analyst projections are also something you should take into consideration, but only with a grain of salt. You shouldn't take analyst projection completely as an investment advice, okay? You want to look at what analysts are saying, what price targets they have. Take that into consideration a little bit when investing into a company, but make sure to do your own research and figure out what you want to do. And the news on the company for the future, like I said, following their business model, figuring out whether they're doing well with revenue and what they're expected in the future, figuring out how their growth is all important when in long-term investing into the future. So our first website is going to be called Finviz. Now, Finviz is a website that is it's got a lot of information on it. Let's just go with that. And I think it's something that you should definitely use because of the fact that it's completely free. Now, you can buy the upgraded version, but you can literally get all the information that I'll be talking about today for free. There's a lot on this page, but first off on the top, you can see you could search tickers. We have all the tabs. You can go through these. I'm going to try and go through these because we have a lot of websites to go through, but this is Finviz. You can search the ticker, you can go through these tabs. Right here shows the 3 different markets, the Dow, the NASDAQ, and the S&P 500. You can see how they're all trading. Down below here has a list of tickers on the left and a list of tickers on the right. These tickers, these couple top ones here are top gainers. We have new highs. Over here, top losers, new lows. So over here is a more bullish outlook on stocks, and over here is a more bearish outlook on stocks. Over to our right, we have this chart that you always see that splits up the stocks based on their sector, how the overall market's trading. You can kind of tell that we're a little bit red today, but for the most part, you can see all the different sectors, the healthcare, financial, technology, communications, whatever it may be, and kind of see how the overall market's doing. This down here is one of my favorite parts, and this really does a lot of work for you. These help with different signals using different tickers. So they give you 4 tickers and give you here a signal, trendline support. So these 4 tickers have been trading or near a trendline support area where it could be a good buy-in. They go through all of these, the different wedges, triangle, ascending, descending, different channels. The channels are very, very important and useful in my opinion. So right here we have different channels, and channels are basically trading between resistance and support. So if we click on this stock right here and we kind of dissect it, they do the work for you. They draw the support area here, and they draw the resistance area up here. You can see that every time it hits support, it bounces up to resistance, bounces off resistance, hits support, resistance, held up here for a little bit, bounced off resistance, support, back up to resistance. So easily, if you would have just taken support and resistance in consideration, you could have bought anywhere down here, okay? Using risk management, you could have bought anywhere down here, bought into it, and made money because it bounced off of support. Doesn't always have to do that, but it's done it 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 times. So this is a good tool to be using. There are ads that pop up on here, but it's whatever. So there's a lot of different types of like multiple top, double top. I like this area. I think there's a lot of stuff you can be using with these tickers and these signals. Down here, it does all the work for you. It's very nice. Down here, we have a lot of information. I don't use a whole lot of this down here, but it is useful and it's nice to have. Headlines, they have decent news. You can read through here what's happening in the media. They have insider trading, different earnings releases, and Forex and bonds are down here. So that's nice to have. And again, you can search up any ticker. You can do different news, screeners. You can go through all these tabs, but this is the main page, and this is where all the meat and potatoes are within the different sectors in the market. And if we go back here, we can go to our next, which is balance sheets. So figuring out balance sheets, like I said earlier in the video, is something very important, okay? So there's a lot of websites you can use to find balance sheets, but all I did was typed in the ticker symbol Tesla, typed in balance sheet after that, and there's all these different websites that come up with different balance sheets for Tesla. My favorite website to use is MarketWatch, and if we click over here, so as we scroll down on the page on MarketWatch, you can see it has the balance sheets, the cash flow, SEC filings. It has all this information you can go through. It's very nice to kind of read into some of these numbers, especially when you're long-term investing. You can figure out their 8K reports, which is also very important, which shows their debt and all that stuff. So it's important to kind of read through these balance sheets, and I know it's kind of boring to follow this stuff, but if you're interested in the amount of revenue, the amount of profits, their total liabilities, whatever the company may be doing, whether or not it's good or bad, to figure out whether the company's kind of legit or they have a plan for the future, this is something you want to be able to follow. So next is price targets, and price targets from analysts are very, very helpful to take into consideration. But again, only take it with a grain of salt because price targets can be a little skewed. Certain analysts can be a little more bullish or bearish depending on who you talk to. But if we go to tipranks.com, you can see his whole page is brought up here. And this is a nice website to kind of research some stuff. It is a free website, but there's also a paid version. So if we go to a popular ticker right now, which is Alibaba, this stock is very undervalued right now. But if you go to Alibaba, you can see that it brings up the stock forecast and price targets based on analysts, okay? And so based on 26 analysts offering a 12-month price target for Alibaba in the last 3 months, the average price target is $300.60, or $301.60. You can see that the average right here is $301.60, high price targets of $350, low price targets of $270. We're currently trading at $217. So yes, it's very undervalued. This is a great example to show that yes, maybe some of these price targets are a little high for the next 12 months, but I still see that Alibaba as a whole is still undervalued. I still think that it could reach some of these price targets. Even the average is $300. I think that's more sustainable for where Alibaba should be trading. But besides that, you can read through here, you can figure out different price targets, figure out what type of analyst said this. Again, to upgrade, you can see all the analysts, but we can see just by some of these analysts, there's a lot of like paid premium stuff on here, but for the most part, if you want to just research price targets, this is the website to do so. And then lastly, we have is overall news. Overall news is very important because this kind of follows the whole market. We can use websites like Seeking Alpha, CNBC.com, and Google News. All three of these different websites are very, very good for broader news that gives you good information to follow, whether it be the overall market or individual stocks. So overall news is very important. If you click on just CNBC.com or whatever website you want to use, it gives you all this information that's happening in the markets. So it's something that I like to wake up to in the morning, research one of these websites, research the information that's on there, how the markets are moving, where we're headed for the rest of the day, is there anything the Fed's going to talk about, anything like that, inflation, all this talk, all this stuff is on here, and any of these three websites, in my opinion, are very, very good choices. So yeah, guys, that was the first PowerPoint slide presentation, finding stocks and news. Definitely check out some of those websites and definitely do your research before buying into an asset, whether you're day trading, swing trading, or long-term investing. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next PowerPoint slide video.